Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Harris County Flood Control District's virtual community engagement meeting to discuss the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin. This virtual meeting is being offered by the Flood Control District to share vital information with the community and to gather your input on flood risk reduction efforts in your area. Community engagement is a critical component of our work, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening. My name is Sheldon Brigham, and I'm with the Flood Control District's communications team. I'm joined tonight by a team of Flood Control District leadership and subject matter experts to ensure we continue to keep you up to date on important flood mitigation efforts. We're glad to see the community engaged in this project, and we look forward to gathering your feedback tonight. Moving forward, we will continue to share updates on this and other projects in your area to keep you involved and informed. This virtual public meeting will begin with a presentation to share project updates, including an overview of the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program, the project design, and next steps. The presentation will be followed by a virtual question and answer session with Flood Control District team members, where we will get to respond to your questions and comment on some of the frequently asked questions that we receive from the public. Attendees will be able to submit comments and questions through the website, and you'll also be able to do that by phone. Any comments not addressed during the Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the close of the comment period. Instructions on how to participate in the virtual meeting are included on this slide. It's on the virtual meeting webpage and on the Flood Control District's website. And I'll also share a reminder of these instructions when we reach the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. We will now transition to Melissa Meyer, Interim Director of Engineering with the Flood Control District, who will share information about the Flood Control District and then more about this project. Melissa, over to you.
Sorry about that. I was muted for quite a while. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us here tonight. And this presentation will give a brief overview of the project. But before I get into project specifics, I want to share a bit of background about the Flood Control District. So the Harris County Flood Control District is a special purpose district that was created by the Texas legislature in 1937 in response to devastating floods that hit the Houston area in 1929 and 1935. The Flood Control District is governed by the Harris County Commissioners Court and works closely with other entities in our region, such as the Harris County Engineering Department and the City of Houston. The organization was created in part to serve as a local partner to leverage federal funding for flood damage reduction projects. But our mission has expanded since our founding, leading to billions of dollars in federal, state, and locally funded infrastructure improvements in the ground. The mission of the Harris County Flood Control District is to provide flood damage reduction projects that work with appropriate regard for community and natural values. And one of the most difficult challenges we face is constructing effective projects that are sensitive to community and natural values in highly urbanized areas. Harris County includes 23 main watersheds totaling approximately 1,800 square miles and more than 2,500 linear miles of channel. 2,500 linear miles is approximately the distance from New York to California. A watershed is a geographical region of land that drains to a common channel or outlet, and each watershed has its own unique characteristics and needs. The project we are presenting on tonight is in the Little Cypress Creek watershed, located in northwest Harris County. So Harris County and our surrounding area is flood prone for a number of reasons. Namely, we experience rainfall events, including tropical storms and hurricanes. Our area is made is largely made up of flat and slow draining land. And finally, we see large concentrations of clay soils that do not soak up excess rainfall quickly. While the flood control district plays a critical role in flood risk reduction, we are only one of several entities involved in our efforts in this region. When rain falls on your roof, it flows through several jurisdictions, such as streets and drains, managed by the Harris County Engineering Department, a municipal utility district, or a city, such as the City of Houston, before it flows into a larger channel, creek, or bayou that the flood control owns and maintains. This slide here illustrates the various jurisdictions, which sometimes we even share with other entities. Inside neighborhoods, as shown on the left side of this illustration, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and start the process of moving it away from homes and streets. Storm sewers and roadside ditches are the responsibility of the underlying municipality. The larger bayous and channels that take the collected stormwater and move it through our drainage system towards Galveston Bay are the responsibility of the flood control district. And this is shown on the right side of the illustration. The middle is a stormwater detention basin, sometimes constructed by the flood control district. And when storm sewers on the left are increased, this creates an increase in runoff. And since it's our policy to avoid any adverse impacts from our projects, detention basins help to safely take in and temporarily store excess stormwater during heavy rain events. Often we partner with Harris County precincts, utility districts, and others to add recreational amenities such as trails to these basins and along our channels. On August 25th, 2018, Harris County voters approved $2.5 billion in bonds for flood risk reduction projects. This vote followed a series of 23 meetings with community members across Harris County, one per watershed, which resulted in a list of what is now 181 bond projects. As of August 25th, 2021, every project included in the 2018 bond program has been initiated, including the 10 projects in the Little Cypress Creek watershed. A total of more than $1.7 billion in partnership funding has been secured so far to stretch the 2018 bond program even further. The actual timing of each individual project will depend on a variety of factors, including environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition and utility relocation, and in some cases, the requirements of a particular grant. As bond projects move forward, we're making significant progress towards resilience in Harris County. We shared an update with the Harris County Commissioners Court in January of this year, and we highlighted a few notable stats. So far, we have completed or closed 29 projects. We've secured $1.7 billion in partnership funding to stretch the bond funds even further for our communities. And we've hosted more than 180 community engagement meetings. Your input is critical to our efforts, and we want to ensure that our conversations continue. While the bond was for $2.5 billion, the full cost of every project in the bond tables is almost $5 billion. So we made it clear from the outset that we would need additional funding partners to fully construct the projects in the bond program. And as I've mentioned, we've had some success so far, having secured more than $1.7 billion in partner funds for projects across Harris County. This graphic here illustrates the many sources of these partnerships, including federal, state, and local funding that the Flood Control District is working to secure for Harris County. And each agency has its own definition of eligible projects and its own requirements for local match funding. So the Flood Control District works diligently to match projects to the right partnership opportunities. We'll now move on to the part of the program that's specifically about the Little Cypress Creek watershed and the Basin Stormwater Detention Basin. As a reminder, we are looking for your input as we discuss this project in more detail. Please feel free to drop any questions or comments into the comment box or to comment via phone by pushing the star key. The Little Cypress Creek watershed includes about 50 square miles in Northwest Harris County, just north of US 290. Little Cypress Creek is a tributary of Cypress Creek, comprising about 15% of the total Cypress Creek watershed. The upper reaches of the watershed are mostly rural and undeveloped, but that's quickly changing with the completion of the Grand Parkway. Currently, Little Cypress Creek, especially upstream of Cypress Rose Hill Road, where the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin is proposed, has limited capacity. As the area continues to develop, there's going to be a need to add some depth along the channel in certain parts of the creek. The goal of the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program is to provide flood risk reduction to the entire watershed so that as development occurs within the watershed, the drainage infrastructure meets the standards set in place by Harris County. Accomplishing the goals of the Frontier Program will require the design and construction of new and larger capacity channels in coordination with multiple stormwater detention projects throughout the watershed to future demand while also reducing current flood risk within the watershed. The program has been operating under a set of interim guidelines that were adopted by the Harris County Commissioners Court back in February of 2014. These development requirements these guidelines go beyond the standard county requirements for stormwater detention. As development occurs within the watershed, we are actively coordinating with developers and property owners to acquire land and property rights suitable for flood risk reduction projects. An updated master drainage plan for the watershed was approved by Harris County Commissioners Court in January 2022 for updated higher historic rainfall rates, including Hurricane Harvey, and to accommodate additional improvements for the watershed, such as more stormwater detention and the channel conveyance improvement projects. This map shows the proposed projects within the Frontier Program, including the 9 stormwater detention basins, some of which are already under construction. When they're all complete, they will hold almost 20,000 acre-feet of stormwater. The other 2 bond projects are in the Little Cypress Creek for stormwater conveyance improvements just downstream of Cypress Rose Hill Road. As previously stated, development requirements within the Little Cypress Creek watershed are more stringent than within our other watersheds in Harris County. Developers are required to pay impact fees of $4,000 per acre for new development or redevelopment that results in an additional impervious area. These funds are primarily used to acquire right-of-way within the watershed for channels and stormwater detention basins. They also must assist with construction of channel and stormwater detention basin projects in the watershed by excavating within flood control district property. So for every acre of development, the developer must construct 0.89 acre-feet of detention. In addition to the impact fees, developers must document that their development will cause no adverse impact to the other areas. Without a regional program, individual developments would install drainage infrastructure that serves their site alone, resulting in smaller isolated basins and minimum width channels. But by taking a regional approach, the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program is providing several larger and more efficient regional detention basins, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Once complete, the benefits of the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program could result in up to 5,800 acres no longer inundated during a 100-year Atlas 14 event, the 100-year floodplain removed from 3,200 structures, and total storage volume of up to 22,000 acre-feet of stormwater detention across 9 proposed regional stormwater detention basins. We'll now discuss the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin in a little bit more detail. The project site is located near the intersection of the Grand Parkway and Bower-Hockley Road at the confluence of 3 Little Cypress Creek tributaries. Right-of-way acquisition is an essential part of realizing the full benefits of the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program, and we've acquired all of the necessary right-of-way for the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin, meaning that we can share the layout of the site and move forward with construction once the funding is secured. And once constructed, the stormwater detention basin will hold about 2,700 acre-feet of stormwater, and tributary L112-00-00 will be extended northward by more than 300 linear feet. The 2018 bond program allocated $13 million for this project, but we will still need to identify partnership opportunities to construct the project as designed. So as a refresher, here's a graphic that shows what a stormwater detention basin is and why it's a tool that the Flood Control District uses for flood mitigation across the county, and especially in Little Cypress Creek watershed. They're built to temporarily store excess stormwater until it can make its way safely back into the channel and then ultimately to Galveston Bay. There are several ways that stormwater will fill the detention basin, but all of our structures are passively designed so that they will utilize gravity in order to operate. So basically no mechanical gates or pumps. This illustration shows stormwater overflowing into a basin from a bayou by way of a weir structure. And as the water levels in the bayou recede, the stormwater basin drains by gravity through the outfall pipe and back into the channel. The stormwater detention basin will generally be a dry bottom basin with stormwater quality features throughout the sites, as shown in green on the map to the right. A weir, or a structure that regulates the flow of the stormwater, will also be constructed on the southern tip of the stormwater detention basin, and that will allow water to pass into the adjacent proposed Mischke West stormwater detention basin south of Bauer-Hockley Road via tributary L112-00. Here are the project benefits once the basin is constructed. The basin will remove the 100-year area of inundation from 53 structures in 229 acres, and also lower the 100-year storm event water surface elevation by 11 feet. Though 53 structures may not seem like a lot, it's important to remember that the area around the basin is sparsely populated and developed, and the purpose of the basin and the projects within the Frontier program is to build flood mitigation projects ahead of development. Speaking of developments, I mentioned earlier that Little Cypress Creek is unique, and developers participate in the Frontier program by paying impact fees as well as excavating within Harris County Flood Control District right away to mitigate for their own developments. Next summer, crews will begin excavating on a set footprint within the overall Mason Stormwater Detention Basin footprint that's shown in brown on the slide. They will excavate 402 acre-feet of detention, which is nearly 20% of the full detention volume of the basin at little to no cost to the Flood Control District. We'll now discuss the project outlook and the next steps. This is the Flood Control District project lifecycle graphic, and every project that we do follows this sequence. As you can see, the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin has completed preliminary engineering, which resulted in a preliminary engineering report being transmitted through Harris County Commissioner's Court with a recommended project. And like I mentioned earlier, we have acquired all of that needed right away. This means that the project is now in the design stage. And during the design stage, our engineering teams will prepare construction plans, specifications, and more detailed cost estimates for the project. On other projects, this stage might overlap with right-of-way acquisition and utility relocations, since those activities may affect final design considerations. And periodic reevaluations may also affect the final design. Right now, we currently have a preliminary design for the project. A final design will be completed once all of the 11 different projects have finished preliminary engineering, so that those results can be incorporated into the watershed's overall master drainage plan. If you'd like to learn more about the watershed's master drainage plan, there's a copy of it on the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program webpage at www.hcfcd.org/F-26. In it, you'll find very technical details about each of the projects. Finally, the estimated cost for the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin is $80.3 million, which means we will continue to seek additional funding to construct the project as designed. However, like we've discussed tonight, we are able to begin excavating the basin because of developer participation, and that excavation will provide flood mitigation in the watershed. I'll now turn the program back over to Sheldra to kick off the Q&A.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Before we move into the Q&A, I do want to share a quick reminder that we are looking for your input. We'd love to hear from you on this and other projects that are moving forward across Harris County. Your input is critical as we continue to develop project plans for this and other flood risk reduction efforts. All comments and questions received this evening will be considered as we develop plans for this effort, but the conversation doesn't end here. To learn more about this project, ask questions, and to sign up for our mailing list, please visit hcfcd.org/F34. And as a reminder, there are 3 ways that you can submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/F34, or you can submit a comment via phone, and that number is 855-925-2801, utilizing the meeting code 5483. And if you are joining us via phone tonight, you'll need to press star and leave us a message. Additionally, just want to remind everyone that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. Information from this meeting and a recording of the live stream will be available on the Flood Control District's website and also on our YouTube channel. And now it's time to move to some of your questions. Our first question is, what is the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program?
So, excuse me, the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program focuses on the 52 square mile Little Cypress Creek watershed in Northwest Harris County. This area is experiencing rapid development with construction of the Grand Parkway, and it lacks sufficient natural drainage to accommodate the expected growth. So by collaborating with landowners and developers, this program is working to identify a large-scale, mutually beneficial plan for drainage that cost-effectively maximizes stormwater mitigation and water quality, as well as opportunities for public recreational amenities and open space. The Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program includes multiple projects across the watershed, including 9 stormwater detention basins and stormwater conveyance improvements along Little Cypress Creek and its tributaries.
Thank you for that, Melissa. Our next question, what is the master drainage plan for this watershed and what is its purpose?
So to facilitate the greater vision of the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program, the Flood Control District developed a master drainage plan, we also call that MDP for short, to serve as the technical framework for the proposed flood risk reduction projects in the watershed. Projects in the Frontier Program include the 9 stormwater detention basins that I mentioned before, in addition to the channel stormwater conveyance improvements to Little Cypress and the tributaries. The MDP outlines the hydrologic and hydraulic analyses, the proposed land use assessments, water quality requirements, the cost estimates, proposed right-of-way acquisition, and reevaluation of the interim guidelines for new development in the Little Cypress Creek service area. It was originally approved by Harris County Commissioners Court in December of 2018. And the Little Cypress Creek Watershed Master Drainage Plan Atlas 14 revision, approved January 4th, 2022, increases the amount of proposed stormwater detention and adds channel stormwater conveyance improvement projects downstream of Cypress Rose Hill Drive to the confluence of Cypress Creek.
And Melissa, how can developers participate in the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program?
So the development requirements within the Little Cypress Creek watershed are more stringent than other watersheds in Harris County. Developers are required to pay impact fees of $4,000 per acre for new development or redevelopment that results in additional impervious areas. These funds are primarily utilized to acquire the right-of-way within the watershed for channels and stormwater detention basins. Developers also must assist with construction of channel and stormwater detention basin projects in the watershed by excavating within flood control district property. And for every acre of development, the developer must construct 0.89 acre feet of detention. In addition to these impact fees, developers must document that their development will cause no adverse impact to other areas. Without a regional program, individual developments would install drainage infrastructure that serves their site alone, resulting in smaller, more isolated basins and minimum width channels. But by taking a regional approach, the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program is providing several larger and more efficient regional detention basins.
Thank you, Melissa. Just want to, pass a quick note. Darwin has some specific questions about this project in relation to his property, so we're going to follow up with him after this meeting. Our next question is from Dave, and Dave asks, how will you access the Basin project? What roads will contractors be using?
So the developer who's working out there in the area is looking at access via the north of the Mason Basin, whereas flood control will use the northern access and the southern accesses as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Melissa. All right. Okay, just want to remind folks quickly, we're about halfway through our meeting and want to let you know the ways that you can take part tonight and how you can participate in this meeting. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/F34, or you can submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, and you'll want to utilize meeting code 5483. And again, if you are joining us via phone tonight, make sure you press star and leave us a message. Again, we'll try to get to everyone's questions tonight, but if we do not get to your question tonight, if it's project or specific to your property, we'll have to reach out to you after the meeting. And also any projects, any questions related to this project that we're not able to get to, we'll follow up with you after the close of the comment period. Now, after this meeting, information from this meeting, as well as a recording of the live stream, also the PowerPoint, those are going to be available on the Flood Control District's website, and you'll also be able to find the video on our YouTube channel. And now we'll get back to some of your questions. All right, still have those questions coming in, and I'm pulling it down. Let's see. Lots of questions from the public about access for this project. Melissa, can you address that question again, please?
Yeah, so we are currently working with the precinct regarding that access. And Bower-Hockley is not the only way to access that basin. So more information to come on that.
Thank you, Melissa. Julie, let's see. I'm going back to Julie's question. She's on KZ Road. She'd like to know about the project boundaries.
Yeah, the project boundaries are between two tributaries, L112-01-00 and L112-02-00. I know you're on the road. But it's basically a triangle right in between where those two tributaries converge towards like L112-00. So it's kind of a triangle in between that area right there.
All right, thank you for that, Melissa. I'll move back to let's see some other questions. Will this project mitigate future flooding in this area?
So no single project can guarantee to mitigate all future flooding, but we can say that this project would significantly reduce the flooding risk. Given the facts about Harris County soil and topography, any location in our region can flood given enough rain, regardless of any flood risk reduction project. Whether or not an area floods is not solely determined by the total amount of rain, but also how fast it falls and for how long. So we do what we can to reduce the risk of flooding, but we do encourage all residents, whether in a mapped floodplain or not, to buy flood insurance and to prepare. So whatever project we build, should the community support it, will reduce the risk of flooding for residents in the area. The final design will determine the full extent of those benefits. The 2016 tax day flood is still the storm of record for the Little Cypress Creek watershed, so we calibrate our models against that event to calculate potential benefit.
Thank you, Melissa. Next question is talking about property values and how might this project impact property values in the area?
So the flood control district can't predict how property values will change as a result of any potential projects. However, we do know that properties with a lower risk of flooding have a higher value in general than projects with a high risk of flooding. So lowering flood risks in Harris County increases the quality of life in Harris County.
Emily is asking, will developers or flood control district contribute toward road maintenance?
So Emily, I believe you're asking about Bower-Hockley Road, and that will be up to the precinct. And right now we are working with the precinct on the details of that road maintenance.
Okay. See, the new Little Cypress Creek Master Drainage Plan says that the overall LCC program will have no adverse impact downstream on Cypress Creek. It also says that projects on the creek should generally be phased downstream to upstream. Does this mean that projects at the downstream end of LCC may move forward as soon as the land right-of-way is finalized?
It's possible, but we're being careful not to widen and deepen the channels and push flooding risk downstream. As I mentioned before, the flood control district is a no adverse impact agency, which means that meaning improvements made in one part of the watershed cannot increase the flood risk in another part of the watershed or other watersheds.
Thank you for that, Melissa. Just want to, let you know that we will follow up with Julie Elder on her specific project boundary question after the meeting. So Julie, look out for us. We're going to follow up with you a little bit later on. And our next question, how does this project impact the Tomball ISD planned school complex, which is consisting of a high school, intermediate, and elementary school in the area? FYI, it's across Mushkey Road.
Let me get back to you on that one, and so I can get you a complete answer.
All right. I'll make a note of that. Thank you, Melissa. The next question, so much of Harris County flood control resources and detention is focused on new development areas north of the Grand Parkway. What plans, if any, do you have for the areas adjoining the Little Cypress Creek from south of Grand Parkway?
So the master drainage plan is the overall plan for Little Cypress Creek, and it's a comprehensive look at how existing development and proposed development are going to affect the Little Cypress Creek watershed. Not only are we getting ahead of newer developments, but we are also taking into consideration the existing development that exists now. That's why we are moving forward with building stormwater detention basins, as there'll be incremental improvements.
And how will this project impact the Lakes of Fairhaven neighborhood?
This project is upstream of the Lakes of Fairhaven neighborhood, and it will not impact the neighborhood's pond or the mainstream of Little Cypress Creek. Our program manager is in communication with neighborhood leaders to ensure that the neighborhood features that the residents like are kept while ensuring we can develop our own flood mitigation projects.
Good deal. I'm sure those residents appreciate that outreach. Next question, let's see. Do we have maps showing the 53 structures and the inundation acres that are being removed by this project?
Not at this time, no, we do not.
All right. Let's see. What projects in the Frontier program are under construction or completed?
So the Zuby Stormwater Detention Basin's third phase is currently under construction. Phase 1 has been completed on both the Bower, Hockley, and Kleb Woods Stormwater Detention Basins. On the other projects, we are still acquiring the necessary right-of-way and funding to construct those projects.
All right, thank you, Melissa. We're still getting some other questions that are coming in. Let's see, would removal of more debris and silt solve this flooding problem?
So the flood control district removes debris, and we selectively clear vegetation from natural streams such as Little Cypress Creek when the material is impacting stormwater conveyance. Please note that this debris removal and/or the selective clearing of vegetation has a really marginal benefit at best in lowering water surface elevations during rain events. Removing debris and/or like this selective clearing is not sufficient to adequately mitigate for new development or reduce flooding risks in the watershed. Removal of silts is kind of a different question. Because of environmental regulations, natural streams cannot be widened, deepened, or straightened without a compensatory mitigation, which can cost millions of dollars per mile. Man-made or historically rectified natural channels or straightened channels, which come with engineer's plan, can be cleared of sediment to return the channel to its original design, only if they're properly permitted. Unrectified natural channels, which represent most of Little Cypress Creek, were built by nature and naturally change day to day. So there's no set plan to establish what was the quote unquote original design. The Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program includes plans for improvements to Little Cypress Creek that will be fully self-mitigated in keeping with federal environmental regulations. And this means that the channel will be rebuilt with the same or better natural value as the original stream, according to the federal environmental regulations. You can also report blockages and make requests for services on channels and at stormwater detention basins through the Flood Control District's Service Request Center. You can find that on our webpage on the front at www.hcfcd.org/contact-us.
Thank you for mentioning that, Melissa. Such a good resource, and we definitely want people at home to know about that and know that that's a service that we offer. Next question deals with building. If flooding is an issue in this area, why are more homes and structures being built?
We get that question a lot. Governments cannot prohibit the lawful use of private property without compensation. However, governments can regulate development for the public good. And Harris County development is regulated by the underlying municipality or Harris County for unincorporated areas. Regulations around development focus on property within the 100-year floodplain. So if you're interested in where a property falls within the 100-year floodplain, please consult the flood education mapping tool. You can find that on the website www.harriscountyfemt.org. And as previously stated, development requirements within the Little Cypress Creek watershed are more stringent than within other watersheds in Harris County. Developers are required to pay impact fees of $4,000 per acre for new development or redevelopment that results in an additional impervious area. And then these funds are primarily utilized to acquire right-of-way within the watershed for channels and stormwater detention basins. Developers also must assist with construction of channel and stormwater detention basin projects in the watershed by excavating within the flood control district property. They have to excavate 0.89 acre feet of excavation per developed acre. And in addition to the impact fees, developers must document that their developments will cause no adverse impacts to other areas. So without this regional program, individual developments would install drainage infrastructure that serves just their sites alone, resulting in smaller isolated basins and minimum width channels. But by us taking a regional approach, the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program is providing several larger and more efficient regional detention basins.
Thank you, Melissa. And I'm glad you mentioned the flood education mapping tool. That's a really good tool for folks to know about on our website. And we also, while you're on our website checking out that tool, there are several other interactive tools for folks at home to help you understand your flooding risk. Again, that's at hcfcd.org. We are continuing to receive some questions about access routes such as Jorgen Road, Bauer, and Bauer-Hockley. So please note access routes are still being determined, and we will inform the area once those are determined. So more to come on that. Our next question deals with, let's see, we're talking about, it's sort of two questions here, Melissa. Can a recreational amenity on flood control district land be private or accessible only to certain residents? That's the first part. And then what if the recreational amenities are funded by the homeowners association?
Flood control district property is publicly owned and cannot be restricted for use by only certain members of the public, even if a specific group provides funding for recreational amenities such as trails. This is similar to public beachfront property in Texas, or trails you might see along our bayous that cross from one neighborhood to the other.
All right, thank you, Melissa. I'm going to let you get a drink of water, and I'm going to remind people how they can comment or send us questions this evening. Melissa's doing a great job answering all these questions. So for those of you at home, there are 3 ways that you can reach out to us during tonight's meeting to give us a comment or to send us a question. You can do so on the site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can also submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/F34, or you can submit a comment via phone, and that number is 855-925-2801, utilizing the meeting code 5483. And if you are joining us via phone tonight, you'll have to press the star key, leave us a message on that, and any questions that are not addressed during the Q&A tonight, and we had several of those come in that are more property specific to a certain area, we will reach out to you after the meeting, also after the close of the comment period for those questions that are project related. Information from this meeting and a recording of the live stream will be made available on the Flood Control District's website and on our YouTube channel. And now we'll get back to some more questions. All right, Melissa, will there be any recreational amenities planned around this project?
The Flood Control District doesn't spend its own flood risk reduction money on trails and other recreational amenities, but we frequently share our property and work with partners or organizations who want to finance and then maintain those recreational elements that the community might want. Our core mission is to build flood risk reduction projects that work, so we have to balance that with any potential recreation. Anytime we take away from the footprint of a basin to work in, say, a ball field, a dog park, or a trail, for example, it can reduce the amount of stormwater storage that the basin site can provide. So we try and find that balance between our mission and other community goals.
All right, next question. If you are reducing flood risk in this area? Or are you just flooding another area as a result? And I know that's one that we get often, Melissa.
Yeah. So we are a no adverse impact agency. Project engineers must ensure that improvements made on one part of the channel will not increase flooding on another part of the channel. This is why we will continue to construct the downstream segment of the channel from Telge up to the confluence with Cypress Creek, first to mitigate any additional conveyance from the upstream projects. All new development within Harris County must comply with strict requirements for detention, and development criteria have been in place for the last 30 years, and it is always required for any development in the county. These developments criteria require that all new developments mitigate for flooding and drainage impacts that might be caused as a result of that new development.
Thank you, Melissa. Will this project eliminate flooding altogether? That's another one that we get in a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, although this project will reduce the risk of flooding in the area, the risk of flooding will remain. Harris County Flood Control District recommends that everyone in Harris County and surrounding areas have flood insurance to insure against the possibility of personal and financial loss. You can go to hcfcd.org/mapnext, that's MAAPNEXT, to learn about the Flood Control District's Map Next initiative, which aims to produce Harris County's most comprehensive and complete set of flood hazard maps and information.
Thank you, Melissa. Let's see, we received a comment about yard signs announcing tonight's meeting. Those notices were placed in the right-of-way to let people know about tonight's meeting. So please know that those yard signs will be picked up promptly following tonight's meeting, so that that's not going to clutter the area. That was just giving notice about our meeting tonight. All righty, let's see if we have any more questions coming in from you tonight. Looks like we've got, let's see, a little over 10 minutes left here. How can I learn more about one of the other projects going on in the Little Cypress Creek watershed?
You can visit our website at www.hcfcd.org/LCC and select the point of interest from the list on the left-hand side of the web page. And also each page has a submit a comment button for any questions or input you might have for a specific project.
Good deal. Once completed, what are the benefits? What benefits will the Little Cypress Creek Frontier program provide?
So once complete, the requirements of the Little Cypress Creek Frontier program could result in up to 5,800 acres no longer inundated during a 100-year Atlas 14 events. The 100-year floodplain removed from 3,200 structures and a total storage volume of up to 22,000 acre-feet of stormwater detention basins across stormwater detention, across 9 proposed regional detention basin facilities.
All righty, and we got a question in from DJ, but DJ, we're going to follow up with you directly on your property question in the west section of this project area. Let's see, our next question. Where is the Basin Stormwater Detention Basin located?
Yeah, this project is located near the intersection of the Grand Parkway and Bower-Hockley Road at the confluence of 3 Little Cypress Creek tributaries.
All right, thank you for that, Melissa. Looks like we might have a few more questions coming in as we're getting close to wrap time. Let's see, Lisa asks, what is planned for the land recently purchased property at Longwood?
Let me get back to you on that so I can make sure I get you the right answer.
Okay, so Lisa, we will follow up with you on that question after the meeting. So Melissa can dive a little bit deeper and gather some information for you. Let's see here, more questions coming in. Has all of the required right-of-way been acquired for this project?
Yes, we've acquired the needed right-of-way for this project. It's been purchased, and so we can move forward with construction once the funding is secured.
Good deal. How much detention storage will the Basin Stormwater Detention Basin hold once it's completed?
So once it's constructed, it will hold about 2,700 acre-feet of excess stormwater, and tributary L112 will also be extended northward by more than 300 linear feet.
Good deal. Now we've got a money question, Melissa. How much money has been allocated to fund this project so far?
So far, the 2018 bond program allocated $13 million for the project, but we still need to identify partnership opportunities to fully construct the basin.
All right, good deal. And again, we've got about 10 minutes left. We may have had some folks who didn't get a chance to join us right at 6:30 because they were fighting traffic or getting off late from work. So Melissa, maybe we can run through just a couple quick highlights of the project that folks may have missed who joined us late.
Sure.
And I think that was around slide number 18 is where we really started to dive into this project, into the details.
Perfect. Yeah, so the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin is located near the intersection of the Grand Parkway and Bower Hockley Road at the confluence of 3 Little Cypress Creek tributaries. Right-of-way acquisition is an essential part of realizing the full benefits of the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program, and we have acquired all of the necessary right-of-way for the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin, meaning that we can share the layout of the site and move forward with construction once funding is secured. Once constructed, the stormwater detention basin will hold about 2,700 acre-feet of stormwater, and tributary L112 will be extended northward by more than 300 linear feet. The 2018 bond program allocated $13 million for the project, but we will still need to identify partnership opportunities to construct the project as designed. As a refresher, here is a graphic that shows what a stormwater detention basin is and why it's a tool that the flood control district uses for flood mitigation across the county, and especially in the Little Cypress Creek watershed. They are built to temporarily store excess stormwater until it can make its way safely back into the channel and then ultimately to Galveston Bay. There are several ways that stormwater will fill the detention basin, but all of our structures are passive designs that utilize gravity to operate. So we don't use mechanical gates or pumps. The illustration shows stormwater overflowing into a basin from a bayou by way of a weir structure. And as the water levels in the bayou recede, the stormwater from the basin drains by gravity through the outfall pipe and back into the channel. The stormwater detention basin will generally be a dry bottom basin with stormwater quality features throughout the site, as shown in green on the map to the right. A weir or a structure that regulates the flow of stormwater will be constructed on the southern tip of the stormwater detention basin and will allow water to pass into the adjacent proposed Mischke West stormwater detention basin south of Bower Hockley Road via tributary L112. Here are the project benefits once the basin is constructed. The basin will remove the 100-year area of inundation from 53 structures and 229 acres, and it will also lower the 100-year storm event water surface elevation by 11 feet. Though 53 structures might not seem like a lot, it is important to remember that the area around the basin is sparsely populated, and developed. And the purpose of the basin and the projects within the Frontier program is to build flood mitigation projects ahead of development. Speaking of development, I mentioned earlier that Little Cypress Creek is unique in that developers participate in the Frontier program by paying impact fees as well as excavating within the flood control district right away to mitigate for their own developments. And next summer, crews will begin excavating on a set footprint within the overall basin, the overall Mason Stormwater Detention Basin footprint that's shown on brown on the slide. They'll excavate 402 acre-feet of detention, which is nearly 20% of the full detention volumes of the basin at little to no cost to the flood control district. So we'll now discuss the project outlook and next steps. This is the flood control district project lifecycle graphic, and every project that we do follows this sequence. As you can see, the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin has completed preliminary engineering, which resulted in a preliminary engineering report being transmitted through Harris County Commissioners Court with a recommended project. And like I mentioned earlier, we have acquired all of the needed right-of-way. This means that this project is now in the design stage, and during our design stage, our engineering teams will prepare construction plans, specifications, and more detailed cost estimates of the project. On other projects, the stage might overlap with right-of-way acquisition and utility relocations, since those activities could affect final design considerations. And periodic reevaluations may also affect final design. So right now, we currently have a preliminary design for the project, and a final design will be completed once all of the 11 different projects have finished preliminary engineering so that those results can be incorporated into the district's overall master drainage plan. If you'd like to learn more about the watershed's master drainage plan, there's a copy on the Little Cypress Creek Frontier Program webpage at hcfcd.org/F-26. And finally, the estimated cost for the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin is $80.3 million, which means we will continue to seek additional funding to construct the project as designed. However, like we have discussed tonight, we're able to begin excavating the basins because of the developer participation, and that excavation will provide flood mitigation in the watershed. Sheldra?
Good deal, Melissa. Thank you so much. I'm glad we got to go over that one last time for folks who were joining us late. And then also a reminder, if you want to hear it again, it's going to be on our website and on our YouTube channel. I know these projects can be pretty technical sometimes. So sometimes it's good to have the opportunity to go back and review the video and even look over the PowerPoint presentation as well. And we did get an answer, Melissa. There was a question about, do you want to read that or do you want me to?
Sure. So the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin project will not impact or benefit the upcoming Tomball ISD school complex project. That school is going to drain into a separate channel. So completely separate.
So good deal. Thank you. We were able to get that answered before the end of the meeting. We're on top of it. All right, our next question. Why are there only 53 structures benefiting from this project?
Yeah, 53 structures doesn't seem like a lot, but it's important to remember that the area around the basin is sparsely populated and not very developed, and that the purpose of the basins and the projects within the Frontier program is to build flood mitigation projects ahead of that development.
That's a really, really good point. Will there be any developers contributing to the excavation efforts of this project?
Yes. So next summer, crews will begin excavating on a set footprint within the overall Mason Stormwater Detention Basin footprint. They're going to be excavating 402 acre-feet of detention, which is about 20% of the full detention volume of that basin at little to no cost to the flood control district.
All righty. And what is the current life cycle stage for the Mason Stormwater Detention Basin project?
So this project has previously completed the preliminary engineering stage, which resulted in a preliminary engineering report being transmitted to the Harris County Commissioners Court with the recommended projects. We've also acquired the right-of-way, and now the project is in the design stage. So during the design stage, our engineering teams are going to be preparing construction plans, specifications, and more detailed cost estimates of the project.
All right, good deal. I think that's a good place for us to go ahead and wrap this evening. And with that, I'd like to share one final reminder that the comment period associated with this meeting runs through December 12th, but we are always looking for your input and your engagement. We also encourage everyone to get flood insurance as flood season in Harris County runs year-round. Thank you again so much for joining us this evening and for all of your input and comments on this project. We look forward to continuing to share your updates as our work moves forward. Stay safe and have a great evening.